Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over some severe weather which is going to be impacting parts of the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley, and then maybe even into parts of the Northeast. And we're also going to be giving you a brief update on what is currently Tropical Depression 3. It could potentially become Tropical Storm Claudette, and we're going to be going over that in the first couple minutes of today's video. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. As you can see, we have some excessive heat warnings in effect for much of the Southwest in general. We have a few red flag warnings in effect in that pink color for parts of Colorado, Utah, and Nevada, as well as for another area in parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan as well. We have some flood watches in effect for parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and also into Georgia, and then another pocket for a little bit of Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and West Virginia. And then we have heat advisories which cover parts of Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, and also a little bit of New Mexico, Utah, and also into parts of Nevada and California as well. Yesterday we had a high temperature in Death Valley, California of 128 degrees Fahrenheit, and a low temperature in Stanley, Idaho, where they got down to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest rainfall report was in Everglades National Park in southern Florida, where they got 6.02 inches of rainfall. And the highest snowfall report, well, we didn't have any snowfall reports yesterday, so no snowfall reports yesterday. It was actually a fairly quiet day in terms of weather yesterday, except for the tropics and also some severe weather that'll be firing up today as well. Here's a look at how much rainfall we're expecting, because I think this is going to be the bigger threat. It does look like the chances of this becoming a tropical storm have actually went up since I last made my video yesterday. We're expecting in this orange shade 6+ inches, and you can see that covers the immediate coast. And then we're dealing with 4+ inches as you're getting down into areas like Georgia, Alabama, the Panhandle, Florida, also into Mississippi and Louisiana. In that dark green, that's 2 to 4 inches, and 1 to 2 inches in the light green color. So we are expecting a lot of rainfall, especially along that immediate coast area, from the Panhandle of Florida all the way to, let's say, southeastern Louisiana. That's going to be the bullseye zone in terms of rainfall out of this event. If we're looking at the chances of seeing any flooding, you can see that we have a 20 to 50% risk in this red color, which covers areas of Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and a little bit of Florida as well. So you can see that we do have a moderate risk, which is I believe a 3 out of 4 on their scale in terms of seeing a flash flooding. So we do have a fairly high chance, especially in areas like southeastern Louisiana, where we're below sea level. So it's much easier to get flooding in those areas than an area that would be, of course, a few hundred feet above sea level. So the terrain of this area just makes it way more prone to flooding, especially since we will have a little bit of a storm surge, only about 1 to 3 feet storm surge, so that's not going to be a huge issue, although it might cause some isolated flooding along the coast. If we look at what the the National Hurricane Center is forecasting, you can see that we're expecting this to become a tropical storm. So the last update they did on this was just about a few minutes ago. So I'm recording this around 9 a.m. and they did the last update around 8 a.m. Eastern time. So we do have this the new update. It does show that we are expecting this to become a tropical storm as it's heading closer to Louisiana. So it's expected to become a tropical storm right before impacting Louisiana, stay as a tropical storm until it hits Mississippi, and then sometime between Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning, we're expecting this to go back down into tropical depression status. You can see that we have tropical storm warnings already along the coast in that dark blue color, and you can definitely tell that the track has kind of refined a little bit, and we are expecting this to make landfall into Louisiana, and then of course make its way further to the northeast. The biggest impacts out of this are not going to be on the west side, they're going to be on the east side. So this is going to be the zone where we could be dealing with most of the rainfall. All of the bigger impacts are going to be on the east side of the storm. And then just to read off some of the key messages, I'm just going to read off the bulletin points that the National Hurricane Center has put out. You can see that they're expecting the system, they're saying that the system is expected to produce heavy rainfall, considerable flash, urban and small stream flooding beginning today and continuing through the weekend along the central Gulf Coast, with flood impacts spreading northeastward into the southern Appalachians. And the second bulletin point says tropical storm conditions are expected to begin today in areas near and well to the east of the center along portions of the central Gulf Coast from intercoastal city, Louisiana, to Okaloosa or Walton County line in Florida, including New Orleans. So that's the two bulletin points. Of course, you can go to the National Hurricane Center's website, which is on the bottom of the screen, to get the latest information if you are watching this a couple hours after it was uploaded. So here's the severe weather, and this is going to be our second big weather story of the day. And you can see that we are expecting the biggest zone of severe weather to really be within this Ohio Valley region. So from about Illinois to Ohio is where we're expecting most of the severe weather for today, and then for tomorrow, it's going to be more centered in the northeast, although we're not going to be dealing with anything severe within that region. So again, today we're just going to focus on what's happening in the Ohio Valley. We're not going to talk about what's happening in the Northeast. We'll probably talk about that maybe tomorrow, or depending on the weather, it even warrants a video, because this might just become one of those smaller types of events that is just kind of one of your regular afternoon thunderstorm types of events that doesn't require a video. But I will see, and definitely checking in on the high resolution models. If they do look to be quite prevalent for tomorrow, then I might definitely upload a video on that. So this is for later today, around this will be around 4 p.m. Central Time today, and you can see that we have some storms in parts of Indiana and Ohio. So we do have some storm activity within that region. You can see that we do still have more widespread severe weather into the Ohio Valley by Saturday in the nighttime hours or the evening hours. So this is around 7 p.m. Central Time. So still the sun hasn't went down just yet, but it is getting closer to that evening time period. And as we get into the evening hours, we're going to get rid of that daytime heating, and this is going to be the point when the storms really start to pop off and they start to really just expend all the energy that they've been storing up pretty much the entire day. So moving this along, you can see that that entire batch of storms heads further to the south. We do have a new area of storms setting up to the west, though, in parts of Iowa, Indiana, and Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. So you can see this area of storms within this region right here, and this is going to be your next big batch of storms. We will have really high CAPE values and dew points and temperatures, so all of that coming together, and we have a fairly good shot of seeing some decent severe weather. You can see those storms head further and further to the east. It will be a big rainmaker, especially over central and southern Indiana and central and southern Illinois, maybe even pushing into northern Missouri as well with those heavy rains. And it's not necessarily going to be the clip that they're coming down at. It's just going to be the fact that it's coming down pretty much the entire day with moderate rainfall. So when you get that, you of course do have the threat of seeing rainfall totals maybe 2, 3, 4 inches at a certain location. So we'll talk about the flooding threats a little bit later on in today's video. And that line of storms heads further to the south, mostly just a plain rain by this point. And now we're getting our third round of severe weather by Saturday evening. Not going to be as big of a deal. So this would be by Saturday around lunchtime. Continuing this forward, that line of storms that's in Illinois does not move a lot. We have another area of storms into parts of southern Ontario and also into eastern Michigan. Although, again, that looks like mostly just a steady rainfall. Nothing that's going to be too convective. That heads to the south. As it heads over Lake Erie, it's going to go into a much more favorable environment. So the air and the environment over Michigan and Wisconsin is definitely not as favorable as it is to the south into areas like Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. This area that I just circled on the bottom is much more favorable. So as it's heading over Lake Erie, even though it didn't look too impressive when it was in southeastern Michigan or southern Ontario, it's going to become a lot more impressive as it heads into parts of Ohio and maybe even into western Pennsylvania as well. Although, again, Saturday looks to be the down day. It looks like today is going to be the day where we're going to have the most severe weather. We actually have an enhanced risk out. But it looks like probably for Saturday, maybe a little bit less so on the severe weather end. You can see those storms building up into central and western Pennsylvania and southeastern Ohio. We could see a bit of hail, small hail in these areas, and maybe even some gusty winds. and then that heads to the east, and then as it's heading over the Appalachians, I think they will break up a little bit, although you might still have some lingering showers if you do live along the coast. And you can see they do break up before they head too far to the east. So you're going to want to stay from the Appalachians westward to really get most of the severe weather here in this type of situation. If we look at the total rainfall from the NAM model, you can see that we have expected rainfall totals around 2 to 4 inches. So the red colors are 2 to 3 inches. The browns are 3 to 4, 4 to 6 inches in that purple color. And then as you're getting into the purplish pink colors, that's where you're 6 or more inches. So you can see the bullseye zone right in here where we're dealing with rainfall totals in some isolated spots getting up over 4 inches, or maybe even upwards of 6 inches in parts of Indiana. And then of course, as you head further to the east, you can see that the rain totals do lower down, and then also you can actually see that tropical storm, or what may be a tropical storm, down in the southeast with all of that rainfall. So you can see many different parts of the current environment starting to work together to build this bigger picture where we're dealing with that storm to the south. That's going to help this area of severe weather accelerate a little bit and move out faster, and that'll also help our next cold front move through, which should bring in quite a bit of rainfall into many of these areas, especially on Monday, where it looks like that could potentially just be a washout for many of these areas in terms of rainfall. If we look at the amount of CAPE or convective available potential energy, these values are really high. We're dealing with CAPE values between about 5,000 and 6,000, or 5,000 and 5,500 in many of these areas. Over a more widespread area, pretty much that entire region is over 3,500 CAPE, which is fairly high. So we do definitely have ample amounts of CAPE. Also, something that's really impressive is these dew points. We have a few spots that are getting dew points up near 78 or 79 in many of these areas. So these are really, really high. And this is just going to be one of the many factors that go into why we're dealing with all of this severe weather. So we have really high dew points over the Ohio Valley. And if we look at the actual temperatures, these are also really, really high. So you can see that we have temperatures that are all getting up above 90 in parts of Missouri, southern Illinois, and also into parts of Indiana. And then as you get into areas like Ohio and Pennsylvania, it does go down in terms of the temperatures, but still you're in the 70s and 80s, nothing that's going to be too chilly, and definitely it is high enough to support some thunderstorms. So definitely no worries in terms of the actual parameters here. It's just going to be a matter of how long do those favorable conditions stay in place. It looks like after the first round of storms, that's going to kind of eat up the amount of energy in parts of eastern Indiana and Ohio. So probably the second wave is not going to be as strong. As we get into Saturday, it might re-strengthen a little bit more, but Saturday again doesn't look too impressive from right now. If we look at the total amount of precipitable water, you can see that we have values between about 1.5 inches and even up near 2.5 or 3 inches, which is super high. So we have a very favorable atmosphere over many of these areas, and this is just going to be, again, these are just one of the few factors. I could pull up 100 different maps showing you why we could see severe weather, and there are many different ways that you could look at this. If you look at the wind shear maps, we do have adequate amounts of wind shear. If you're looking at the surface temperatures as well, we have adequate surface temperatures. So any part of the atmosphere that you look at, you can definitely see that we have favorable conditions. But it's going to be, again, do they get used up too quickly? If you get that first round, which doesn't even look to be too severe, if that goes through and kind of eats up all that energy that's in the atmosphere, and then you get a second wave to form, well, there's no more energy left to be used up. So we're gonna have to watch out for that. It looks like you probably won't be dealing with 2 in a row in terms of strong storms. It's probably just going to be that first wave, which is going to be the strongest, and then the 2 following waves probably won't be as strong. And by the way, if you want to look at what the categorical risk is, you can see that we have an enhanced risk in parts of Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, with a slight risk surrounding that from upstate New York and Pennsylvania all the way into Missouri and Iowa. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.